Well, hello, it's Mr. Eager here. Just finishing up the project. The new project we're working on is called a little tiki sculpture. It could be a tiki if you want to be, it could be something else if you want to be, I don't care. It's just more about combination of coiling and slab building, and we get this thing called sculpting, where we learn how to sculpt the face and how to manipulate the clay and change it, and not make your surface look so flat. That's the big thing I've stressed all year in ceramics, is not have flat surfaces. So hopefully this is like a culmination of trying to get that project out for you guys. So we're gonna be working on this project here, is this one, is the tiki. It's gonna be total of 10 inches tall. 5 inches is gonna be the cylinder part, and then how you decide to split up your coils, another 5 inches tall. Things you need for this project: a Pringles can, 45-degree tool to cut the angle edges. We're gonna learn how to use some various different rubber shapers in this project here. We're gonna use a rolling pin and sticks, going to yellow sticks, like kind of the same way we built a mug priorly. We're gonna be using that stuff here. Or if you want to, you can use a slab roller. I did talk about it in a previous project and demoed it. It's gonna make sure the slab roller set at 0.5 centimeter. And that'll get you what you need to make it the right thickness for this project here. And lots of texture. Lots of texture is what we're looking at for this one. So yeah, this little video, a little long, I won't lie, but there's a lot that goes in this project. And I'm asking a lot of you for this project. So let's take a watch. Let's watch this video, see what you can do with your own project. And by the way, again, it doesn't have to be a tiki. I'm using tiki as a themed idea, is what I'm doing. But you can pick other ideas, come up with other things as well, as long as it's sculpted, has coils, and use that Pringles can to make the slab part in the middle. And here's my rendition of it. Can't wait to see what you make. Let's watch the video, and then we'll get started after that.
You're gonna need 5 pounds of clay for this project to get started. So make sure you have 5 pounds of clay. Before you begin anything with the clay, you're gonna begin to think about how you're gonna design your piece. Are you gonna split the coils in half evenly? Are you gonna make them so the coils are on the top and the bottom, the head's on the bottom? Or are you gonna put all the coils on the top? What tiki are you gonna pick? What's your theme? What's your idea behind your project? Once you come up with your idea, then you're going to plan it out, sketch out your design, label it, come talk to me about it so we know what direction you're going with your project. Take the time to plan it out and have more success at creating what you want to make. Once you have your idea planned out, you're going to roll out your slab. Use those yellow sticks, or you can even use a slab roller if you want. But just do this first here. Just roll out your clay, get it nice, even, consistent thickness. Remember, thin it out first, blend and smooth it, and then you're getting ready to plan your design. So take the template you already have. This piece of paper I have for you will wrap around a Pringles can, which you need to use. Just go ahead and cut it out. Wedge up your extra clay. Make sure it's all wedged up. Now it's time to put the 45-degree angles onto your piece. You're gonna cut a 45, flip it over, cut a 45 on the other side. You're gonna take your Pringles can with newspaper around it, wrap your slab around that piece, make sure you blend the two seams together. Now you're gonna make the bottom of your piece. Gonna make sure it matches. So I use that slab that's wrapped around the cylinder, trace it out, gonna cut it out, and that becomes your bottom of your piece. Got my cylinder wrapped around, got my bottom made. Now I'm prepping my coils to do the next step. I have decided to split my coils halfway in the bottom, halfway on the top. Here I am making, cutting my coils to fit the desired pattern I wanna make them into. It's gonna be kind of a geometric pattern, the bottom part of my tiki. When you're adding the coils, you got to score and slip them on. I'm going to blend them in from the inside, not the outside. I want the coils still to show on the outside, so I'm only blending the inside. Here I am scoring and slipping them in the pattern I am making, and then I'm only blending the inside. Again, I cannot stress this, only the inside. I'm going back in, filling it with some extra clay to make sure it's nice and reinforced so the piece doesn't come apart. I'm adding just a plain coil on top of it, kind of hope everything on there, blend all together. I add a couple of these on there. Again, I blend the inside, not the outside. Once I have the bottom half made, it's now time to attach the cylinder part to the coil part. So I pull it out of the bag, remove the newspaper, rip it open a little bit so I can pull the Pringles can out and get it ready to attach to the cylinder. I'm going to double check, make sure it fits well. Then I'm going to score and slip it on and only blend from the inside. Again, I cannot stress this, only blend from the inside. Everything's attached. I'm going to draw some lines. I know where the eyeballs go, the nose goes, and the mouth goes. This is kind of a guideline. Now I begin to push from the inside out my nose first. Push it out, that's the furthest part, and then I go around the piece, push around where my eye sockets are going to be, and everything else. I'm going to kind of slowly begin to work the clay. This is manipulating, sculpting the clay. It might crack a little bit. You might have to smooth it with a sponge, but I begin to slowly develop my basic face shape. I can add clay onto it afterwards, which I will do, but basically getting the basic shape of my face is what I'm doing out here, roughing everything out. Is what I'm doing, pushing out certain features, pushing in certain areas. This is just take some time and some practice, and you're probably going to make some mistakes, but just go along, try to figure it out. Look at your reference material, try to replicate a face that you want to make onto your piece. No matter what it is, a tiki, an idea, something of your own, whatever it's going to be. Here I am drawing my mouth out, kind of laying everything out so I can keep adding more and more detail to it and keep pushing out various features on this clay. Just manipulating it. You gotta do more than just add clay onto it. You gotta rough it out a bit by adding some clay onto the surface. Just kind of clean it up with a rubber shaper there, my ideas, and keep working my sculpture. It takes time. This is probably be the hardest thing you ever do when it comes to working with clay, but in the end, you'll be really happy with the results if you just take the time and really work on it. With the facial features roughed out, I'm beginning to add the coils onto the top of my piece. I usually start off with a plain coil just on the top, overlap it, cut it. This gives me a nice guide, so I make sure it's nice and even. I'm going to score and slip it on. Then I'll build some more coils from there. I'm going to do more organic shape on the top. Now, if I said do more shape on my face, I would not be doing this because I'm pretty much done shaping my face, pushing it out. I'm going to begin to add my coils to the top of my piece. Here's some examples of different organic style coils I'm making for the top part of my piece. Some different ideas of what they look like, the shapes you can make. You can really manipulate the coils however you want, play around with them, see what you can come up with. Now with my organic shapes, I'm scoring and slipping them onto the top. Going to press and blend them on there. Again, only blend the inside. Only blend the inside. But press them on there and kind of blend and smooth them together. Let the coil design show on the outside, not on the inside. To make sure your piece stays together, you really got to take the time to blend the inside. A lot of pieces fall apart when they're not properly blended on the inside. You can see here I'm taking the time to blend it to make sure it's well attached and nothing will come apart. I can also take some little extra clay, add in little holes and seams to help reinforce it, so you're not asking for glue from a year later and your piece will stay together. Take the time to blend everything together. You'll be much happier with your piece in the end. Here I am adding another plain coil on the top, really pressing it down in there, blending it all on there, scoring and slipping it and blending it, so make sure it stays attached. This helps reinforce it and makes it less likely to fall apart. Again, notice how I'm only blending the inside of my piece, adding some clay, making sure it's well put together so nothing falls apart. Here's my project so far. It's 10 inches tall. Got roughly everything out. The face is there, the project's there. It's now time to wrap it up for the day so it firms up a bit. So I'm going to put it inside of a bag, wrap it up good and tight, make sure there's no air in there, mist with a little bit of water, wrap it really good and tight. Again, no air in the bag. Place it in a box if I have one. Keep it safe. Also helps keep it from drying out too quickly. Everything sat for a day or so. I'm coming back on here. I'm going to add clay onto the surface to help define the face more. Adding clay to the nose, giving it nostrils, adding clay for the eyeballs, adding stuff around the mouth. I'll put my hand in there occasionally to help support the piece, but in reality, I'm just kind of adding clay onto the surface, making the face stand out more. adding eyeballs, eyebrows, everything to my project to really define that face even more. Look at your reference material, look at your ideas, begin to generate and shape the face you're going to create for your project. Sculpting the face takes time. Just takes persistence, looking at your reference material, looking at what we're doing, asking me questions, really trying to figure things out on your own. I'm not going to do the work for you, but it's adding clay, manipulating and shaping is what takes the time to really make your face stand out. Put the time and energy and take chances, take some risks, try something different, really experiment with what you're doing. This is kind of a fun thing to try to do. Play around with the clay, make it something unique, make it different. I'm beginning to draw out my basic design. I have the face shaped. I'm beginning to add little extra designs, features to it. Since I'm using the tiki god Kanaloa, the god of the seas, I'm using reference to the water. So I have water and a whale's tail. It's going to be drawn on the back. I'm using my needle tool to lay out my basic idea and design. This is not going to be finished or done, mind you, just basically laying out my basic idea. Then I'm going to go back in and carve it, make it look relief, and have different layers. So here I'm going in, again, to carve in using ribbon tools to carve in those lines, make them wider, not deeper, but wider, so they stand out more. And I carve at like an angle, so I do different layers. So I do the front first, then work my way towards the back, so it looks like things are popping up. Like I actually add the clay on, so it gives it more depth to the piece itself. Not just drawing with the needle tool and saying I'm done. I'm trying to carve in there and add different layers into my features. This is called relief carving. We did a little bit of this on our smooth coil face, and again, we'll do this again on this Tiki project. Once I have the basic relief there, I'll go back in and smooth out with rubber shapers and a sponge to kind of make it stand out even more. Clean up my lines, define it more so you can really see the different layers in my project. And I just kind of make sure everything's nice and smooth and shows a lot of the detail that is there and really help enhance those layers. Now I'm going in, adding some lines into the water itself to make it stand out even more compared to the background and everything else. I don't want everything smooth. I want everything to have a different texture to it. I even added texture to the coils as you look around at the whole project. I don't want a smooth surface. I want a rough kind of texture feel to the whole piece because you're adding things to enhance what you're doing. You can't just do that with painting it. You got to do it with the actual carving of your work itself. So here I am going back in, carving the water, giving it sense of motion and movement by adding these simple lines to the project itself. Since I just want a smooth background, I'm adding little dots in there to even help enhance it even more, to really kind of add more texture, more life to the piece, not just something that's simple and smooth. Texture is the big thing with pottery. Texture with sculpture is a big thing in general. Nothing really totally smooth. If you notice, by doing this, it makes the water stand out and the whale tail stand out as well. Here I'm adding some more texture to the coils. I don't need to leave them plain. I make them stand out more. Again, I really like a lot of texture. It helps enhance your piece, makes it stand out even more. Smooth is not always great with pottery. It's maybe a drinking vessel, but this isn't a drinking vessel. This is a sculpture. More texture, the better. You can cut certain parts or pierce work certain parts of your tiki, but that's got to wait to the very end when you're deadening all your coils, done basic shaping. Here I am cutting out the mouth. I want to have the mouth cut out of this piece. I'm going to add a tongue, have squid parts coming out of it because it's Kanaloa, the god of the sea. So that's one thing I'm doing here. Again, though, I'm going to clean it up, getting it ready for the next step. Here's an example of me making the tongue, also making the parts to the tentacles of the squid coming out of its mouth, and everything else, getting them all prepped and ready to go. Now it's time to add the parts and the pieces. I'm going to score and slip the tongue in. I got the basic shape done. Now I'm going to score and slip and blend it on there is what I'm doing. So add the slip to the areas, blend it on there so it does not come apart. That's important. Make sure it's well blended and attached to the piece. Now just hear me adding the tentacles to my project. I put little dots or curves into them, like little suction cups. Also, if you notice, I add some texture to the face as well. Didn't put that in the video, but I just carved it in more lines. Again, I don't like anything that's smooth, and that's one thing I'm looking for, lots of texture in your project. Here I'm adding the squid tentacles coming out of its mouth, making sure it's scored and slipped and blended into the various parts where it needs to be attached to. This is very important. Take your time, attach everything correctly so it does not come apart. Press those areas together where you scored and slipped. That way it does not pull apart because the clay will. Also, I let these tentacles stiffen up a bit so they're about the same consistency as the rest of the clay. Here's the finished project. Texture covering the whole entire piece, including the coils. Added some extra holes into it to let light shine through it. I cannot wait to see what your piece looks like in the end.